Hi, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to another exciting episode of Netflix and Phil. Today, I'm so honored to have a very special guest. He's recently come off a very important tour that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. He is also an alumni of the College of Charleston in South Carolina. He is a two-time Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival award-winning playwright. That's a mouthful, but I got it out.
Mouthful.
and
Yeah, that's fair.
and speaking of the theater ensemble, the tour he just concluded is called Septima, which we'll discuss in just a moment. He's also been in the HBO show The Righteous Gemstones and a couple of recent horror film efforts, including Live Screamers, as well as my favorite horror film franchise, Halloween, and he's also in Halloween Kills, which came out recently. So let's give a nice big warm round of applause to Michael Smallwood. So,
Hello. Hello.
thank you for inviting us into your space. First thing I noticed before we even started talking is I love your collection of your
Oh,
menagerie.
the various things, the various menagerie. So this is I've got a ton of Funko Pops. I actually it's so funny because I was a theater teacher at a private school for several years,
Oh,
and people kept giving me Funko Pops as
nice.
gifts to like put around my classroom. And then when I left that, I should take them because I now have an office at the college, and I should take them there. But I haven't. I haven't done that. So some of them are just sitting in a bag
Oh
somewhere
no.
because people would just give me random ones too. Like they're not. There's not even any rhyme or reason. Like I got like someone gave me a Funko Pop of the random armed guards from like Batman v Superman or something, and I was like, thank you. I don't know what to do with this. So I've got a bag of them around here somewhere, and then there are some that have just like Ghostface and
Yes.
Shadow Man, Scott Summers, and Black Panther. Like they can live here because I love all these characters. This is John Cena and Becky Lynch over here. I've got a few elsewhere. Somewhere upstairs, I have one of the best things anyone has ever given me. A
Um,
few years ago, we went to Europe.
nice.
For an Octopunk fan event. Octopunk Media
Mm.
is the formerly, well, YouTube channel, and now Octopunks is the entertainment platform of a dear friend of mine, Michelle Iantuano, and who directed Live Screamers. And her, like, so we went over to meet a bunch of fans and screen movies and stuff. And someone on that trip, one of the
Uh-huh.
they had made me a Funko Pop
Your cake
of
though is
of
custom, so nice. Yeah.
yeah, of a character I played in the Octopunk Detroit movies, and so I have a little Funko Pop of me.
That's cool. Well, it's gotten to the point now where I think the people that or the group that produces these, they produce so many and then they're like, what, guard standing left. It's just like they
And yet, the like various attack guards from that movie, and yet there is no Marcus from Halloween Kills
why not?
Funko Pop, and I let me well
But
let me.
who do we write to? Let everybody comment below if we need Marcus from Halloween.
I think they should do a full run of Halloween Kills Funko Pops. And like, because I think there should be a Marcus and Vanessa one. I don't. I'm
There
just
should be. So we're starting today. Comment below.
start the petition right now because all they ever do is make Michael Myers ones. And where are the Laurie Strode ones? Where
Yes.
are the Marcus and Vanessa Funko Pops?
Point taken. Look.
Yeah, yeah. There are so many Michael Myers things. I want a Funko Pop. I would like an action figure.
Well,
Get it
by the end,
done.
we're gonna figure this out.
Get it done for this now 4-year-old movie.
We'll get to Halloween and Halloween Kills in just a moment. I want to talk to you about uh, acting in general. You mentioned Live Screamers, an additional horror effort. What drew you to acting in the first place? Take me back to Michael
Oh,
Smallwood in the past.
oh.
What was the genesis of this?
I, the story I always tell is that I played Santa Claus in second grade.
Love it.
But really, I mean, I have always really enjoyed stories and storytelling. I've always enjoyed playing characters for as long as I can remember, and I have never really wanted. I've always, been interested in doing other things, but I've never really wanted to pursue anything else. But I love getting to be endlessly curious about a bunch of different kinds of roles, a bunch of different kinds of people.
Mhm.
It has the interest of being an actor has been with me for as long as I can remember a concept of me. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Sure.
always been a part of my personality. I've never not wanted to do this in some way.
This is huge, and I'm going to borrow your phrase, endlessly curious, because what acting does is exposes us to things that maybe we perhaps would have never been privy to. And I'd like to take this opportunity to kind of transition into the recent tour that you just did. So you did a project or appeared with an ensemble in a tour of Septima. She herself was an activist from where you're at in Charleston, and written by Patricia Williams Dockery. It talks about her being an instructor herself, a facilitator of dialogue, if you will, helping out the black vote back in the day and making that come to realization in that region. Talk to me about this project and how it came into being and what the tour was like for you.
So the show's been around for 2 years. It was originally written and produced at Pure as just a part of our season to celebrate Septima's life. Like I said, she's a very prominent figure in the civil rights movement, particularly here in Charleston. She's from Charleston. She did a lot of her work here and in the various boroughs of the Charleston area. That show was developed written and staged at Pure 2 years ago. It has
Nice.
come back in various forms over the course of those 2 years and has toured. I joined the tour in September of last
Great.
year. I was asked to come aboard and take over one of the minor roles in it. And it's an ensemble piece, so we're all outside of Zinnia Cummings, who plays Septima.
Mhm.
We're all then playing multiple parts,
Okay.
and yeah, that's how I came on board with that show, and I'm very happy that I did. I picked up the tour. I did a performance last October. Yeah, yeah, October. I did a performance and then joined the tour as it went out to Baltimore, Walterboro, and Nashville last month, going into this month. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's been that came up through my work at Pure Theater. Obviously, the show has existed, so it was very intimidating at first to join this show that has four of the cast have been there since the beginning, and had worked on this production all the way back, in 2023 when it was first staged. I joining so late was a little worried that I had a couple of weeks, 3 weeks of rehearsal before my first performance
Oh, wow.
back in October, and then watched a few other performances and refreshed on, and then jumped right into the tour. So I joked during one of the performances in Baltimore that it's probably the most hyper aware I have ever been on stage because I am I still feel like I'm in a point where I'm watching the show to
Sure.
know where things are gonna happen. My senses are still firing during performances of okay, what's next?
Understood. Well, and granted, I was surprised in learning about this because we had connected, and you were kind enough to chat with me via Instagram, and you said as soon as this tour is finished, I'd be happy to chat. And when you did that, I started looking into the content and the context about her being a civil rights activist, etc. And I was disappointed that I didn't know much about her, and I think she's perhaps left out. We talk about MLK, etc. And this is the first I learned of her, so this was very important.
And that's true
Uh,
of lots of people. Most of our audiences have never heard her story.
yeah,
There are audiences here in Charleston who did not know. I didn't really know. I didn't know really who she was
Yeah.
before the play. And like here in Charleston, there are like major thoroughfares with her name on them. So she is,
Interesting.
yeah, she is a prominent figure in the history of this place, and like not a lot of people know that exact history, right? So that's part of the reason that the show was commissioned and put together in the first place was to spread this story and to spread this information and to let people know who she was. And I think there are a number of reasons why people get lost to history, and I think one of them is that you know most of our historical figures that we all have a big understanding of in the modern sense is if there is a major, like, is there a movie or film about this person, and if not, maybe we don't know who they are. um the other reality is that like a lot of the black women who were a part of that movement have kind of gotten pushed to the sideline, and their contributions are not as lauded if they are not flat out erased during the process. So, it has been very, very nice to be able to help spread this story. And everywhere we go and perform it, people are captivated by it, moved by it, and do feel this. This is not the first time I've heard someone say that they feel, a certain way about not having heard this story and not knowing it. And my response to that is like, you do not need to apologize. Septima herself in the play has a line about her school days, that her school, she's praising her school, and she says, "We were never punished for something we didn't know." And I do not think that you should punish yourself for not knowing this story. Because that is true of so many people who don't. And it is not that you have actively avoided the story, it's just that the story has not been taught to you.
Yeah.
And, the benefit to us doing a show like that is that we are getting to spread the story. So we get to be a part of people learning about it. And that work I feel is incredibly important.
It's very important. Has there been any talk about bringing it to an even broader audience than the most recent tour? Or
Yes. So
oh,
we are not done touring the show. We are done with this current leg of it. I do believe it's going to go back out there. I've heard whispers. I don't really want to I don't want to say anything because I do not schedule the tour, and so I do not know
right.
the specifics. I some of the things that I know have been floated about or have been us returning to Nashville, because there are places in the show that are mentioned that we would like to go and visit and do shows. Places as far out as Colorado have been mentioned. The West Coast
Nice.
has been mentioned. There were rumors and whisperings of us even doing the show internationally. This is a show that, like I said, has been touring for 2 years and goes further and further every tour. I do think that will continue. Um, I also know that a lot of this most recent tour has been made possible by a grant from the National Endowment of the Arts, and we shall see if that sort of thing is even possible moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate your saying that because you mentioned something she had said that I thought was very profound. And then in my research, I took note of something that she said. She said, whenever there is chaos, I hope I get this right. Whenever there is chaos, it creates wonderful thinking. I feel a sense of a bit of chaos as of late, but what it's inspiring me to do, and you, it sounds like, is to do great work and invest in our art and our acting and singing. I understand you sang in this show. Is that true?
I do. I do sing in the show. It was a bit stressful to walk
Really?
into the show. Yeah, I am an actor who, I did some musical theater study in college, and I have been in musicals before. I was in cabaret in college,
Nice.
with company, oof, 7 years ago now, I think. So I've done musicals before. It is not something that I do enough to have any sort of confidence in. And it is maybe the part of my artistic repertoire that I'm the most self-conscious about, particularly in rehearsal, where I get really self-conscious and really in my head about it. I just don't. I'm always so cognizant of how little actual singing training I have. If I sing the wrong note or am given a technical singing note, I don't always know how to respond or what the difference is, and so
Yes.
I get really self conscious about it. So the first few rehearsals were a panic attack nightmare.
Oh no.
But I will say, and I've said this to them publicly and during talkbacks, that I would not have made it through those rehearsals or the tour without the incredible cast that we have. They were all so helpful, so patient, and so encouraging to me that I could not have done this any other. I couldn't have done it if they hadn't been so glorious to
Mhm.
me. And singing along with them, having them help me through songs, having them, give me pointers or coach me, and just even having them after shows be like, you know, look at me and be like, yeah, you got to stop telling people you can't sing.
Yeah.
And just being encouraging to me has meant the world and has been very helpful. And it genuinely has helped my self-confidence about it.
Sure.
And doing the tour has helped my self-confidence a great deal in that department. So I will say with my head held high that I am singing in this show. There are songs in it, and I
Great.
acquit myself admirably.
Great. Well, I hope it continues to evolve and that you continue to be partnered with it as it hopefully gets more momentum here in the future. So, thank you for sharing about your experience. Now, I'm going to kind of take another direction and talk about. I'm a huge horror film fan, as you can tell. Uh, I was introduced to you, albeit briefly, in the Halloween 2018 film by David Gordon Green, where you had a quick appearance with Carmela McNeil.
Hmm.
And then, surprise, spoiler alert, both of you get to come back and reprise your roles in the sequel a little bit later in Halloween Kills. You're credited in the first movie as Hunky Doctor, which
Hmm.
which is
Sure. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you get the name of Marcus, as you expressed here at the top of the episode, who definitely needs a Funko Pop, ladies and gentlemen. So
The hunky doctor, I'll also take a Funko Pop of that too. I
yes.
respond to that. If somebody yells at me, "Hey, hunky doctor," I answer.
So there was a bit of time between the
Like I just did two descriptors that are absolutely like, yeah, I'm acting, guys. I'm not hunky or a doctor. I am just playing the role. No, that's so funny. I love that credit. I think it might be my favorite credit that I've had.
I
It's
think it's great. Well, and that kind of had me questioning, was your appearance, because there's a bit of misdirection in Halloween where Michael is stalking trick-or-treaters, families in a neighborhood, and he's focused on you and Carmela's character, and then he gets distracted and focuses on another victim, if you will.
hmm.
And you both are in it very briefly. So did you know that you'd be coming back for? Did they
No,
at the time? You didn't know. You didn't had no
absolutely
idea
not.
you're coming back.
It was very much a one-off. It was very exciting to get to be a part of that scene,
Uh-huh.
and get to have this moment in this franchise. But that was pretty much it. Like I didn't think that there was going to be anything more to that.
Mhm.
I don't, there was no plans at the time that I knew that there was going to be anything more to that. And so we shot that scene over the course of an evening to get that one take. And I just was like, it's really cool that we're in the one. I like that. That's really cool. It's neat that we get to be, it was nice to meet Jim and to talk to some of the cast and crew and
Mhm.
to um, meet David.
Mhm.
Getting to
Of
meet. I
course.
was like, did I even meet David that night? I did meet David that night. I met Danny that night,
Sure.
Danny McBride, and that was it. I was kind of like, okay, this will be a nice little blip, a fun little thing that you'll be able to pick me out in this one scene of a Halloween movie that, and my wife, who is a huge Halloween fan, will get this nice little Easter egg, and if she's ever interested, she can read the script.
Sure.
And that was kind of it. It wasn't until the following summer,
Uh-huh.
after the movie had come out, So then beginning of that following summer, I was asked if I would be interested in returning because they were hoping to bring those characters back.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was it. I mean, I didn't know anything past that. I didn't know under what capacity or I knew nothing. I only found out basically, I guess, after they had decided either in the room or after writing the script that they wanted to bring these characters back.
And so excellent because you get a ton of screen time in the sequel to it. And you get to work with what I like to call the OG actors from the 1978 film. You have Kyle Richards, you have Nancy Stevens, and not only that, you're in a car with them in a very graphic scene. But you talked about shooting the sequence in Halloween 2018. My question for you is in Halloween Kills, there is a lot of choreography and logistics where Michael is antagonizing you. And what goes into, is there rehearsal for that? How much time did that take to create?
So yes, there is rehearsal for that. Basically, the week before we start filming, we have a week of rehearsals pre-production,
Wow.
which was very exciting. It was the first time I'd ever been on a project where I had like a week of pre-filming and rehearsals and stuff.
Nice.
So that was really cool. But we did rehearsals for that day. We were shown previs of what like the scene could look like and would ultimately sort of look like. And then our stunt coordinator,
Mhm.
Aaron Armstrong. I think I'm saying Aaron. I think that's Aaron's last name. Pretty sure it's Armstrong. Sorry, Aaron, if I got your name wrong. Um, but yeah, so and like Aaron walked us through everything.
Lovely.
Just walked us through the stunts, showed us how to do them. I know Carmela and Nancy went to like shooting ranges to practice shooting. Um, and then yeah, you spend a few days working on that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I want to say we spent a day rehearsing some of the scenes before and after all that stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, we spent it. There was definitely a day where we just spent in and around the car
Wow.
prepping all of that stuff, and then basically a week filming all the car stuff.
That's amazing to me because I recently reviewed it and it's funny how much detail I missed because it happens so fast upon like a first watch, you kind of miss a lot. But I glanced at it with a new eye, if you will, no pun intended, because you meet a demise that's very unique and quite effective in Halloween Kills.
You haven't seen the movie? Go watch the
Yeah,
movie.
check it out. So if you haven't, check it out now. But as we continue to talk, there will be spoilers. One thing that I thought was kind of fun is in Halloween 2018, there's this continuity or a callback because you're leaving your house, boarding, getting into your car, and you say to Carmela, "Oh, I forgot my stethoscope," because you're dressed up as the hunky doctor. And then in Halloween Kills, that's your weapon to overcome Michael Myers in that scene, which has a lot of gunplay, a lot of death. Speak to me a little bit about the makeup experience in that. How it was achieved for you to be killed at the hands of Michael.
Yeah, so that's Chris Nelson is a genius,
Hmm.
and his visual effects are so cool. I went out to LA to his studio and got my cast made of my head and face and everything so that they could create the makeup effect.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's a makeup piece. It covers this much of your face,
You right.
covers your whole eye and some of the forehead, and it feels like you can see out of it, and apparently you can't, but I felt like I could. But I think it was just my brain filling in the dots. And then there's a piece that's covering like this entire part of my hair,
Oh, really?
and it's there to hide the tube
I see,
that
because they
runs
had
up
to
and over your ear and
right
into the eye so that they can
pump blood.
pump blood out of it.
Yes.
So in order for you not to see that tube, they've recreated this side of my hair. And it
I
covers.
never knew that.
I mean, it looks incredible, right? Like I have photos from Chris doing the effect because it took like an hour and a half to put the whole thing on. And I have pictures of it, and even looking in the pictures, I can't see the tube, and I know it's there because I remember feeling it, but it doesn't. It just looks like my hair. It just looks like my face. The worst part of it is that once they, the knife handle's metallic. It's just it snaps on, right? It's just a metallic piece that is a part of the makeup, and but it disconnects so they can finish the makeup and then attach the handle there.
I
But
see.
because once they do that, there's a thing sticking out of your face like this far, and you can't see out of this eye, and there's something this far that if you hit it could destroy all this. So it is a exercise in not lifting your left hand at all, because if you lift your left hand to your face you might hit the I have no depth perception on that side, and
Sure.
I can't hit the handle. So I basically had to keep my left arm down and put my hand out while I was moving around set and have people help me.
And I
Yeah.
imagine, was that apparatus pretty lightweight? Because what it
Mhm.
essentially is half a blade. So, do you recall the construct of it, or what was it made out of?
I think I can't. I mean, the blade is probably just like the same material the blade handle would be made
Yeah.
out of, just with
Okay.
a little
Cool.
magnetic connecting point to the metal, click thing on the face itself.
Yeah.
But it wasn't super heavy. It was very lightweight. Like it felt fine. Like I said, the thing that throws you off is just that like you can't see out of this eye, and there's something protruding on this side, so
Right.
you're so concerned about, because I think I like went to use my left hand to like scratch my side of my head, or touch
Oh
the side of my
no.
head, and I tapped it, and I immediately was like, nope, don't use that arm ever again. I think there's a picture somewhere of me on set with this thing on my face
Sure.
scrolling my phone, and this is the only eye that's moving because this is a fake eye. I was like on my phone scrolling things, waiting for the take. It's also, I mean, we're doing all overnights, so that shot I got sent to the makeup chair at 3:30.
Yeah.
Uh, and we've been on set since like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. shooting a bunch of other stuff, and then around 3 they're like, okay, Michael, go get in makeup for that shot. So then I go away for like 2 hours, come back. That shot was the last thing we did before. Like we did it, and I got out of the car, and the sun was coming up.
That's amazing to me
Yeah.
how that's all executed over the course of one evening. And I think a lot of times audiences don't realize that a sequence that's minutes long, or less even, takes the better part of a night. And you said you went in, what time, what was your call time? If
Call
you,
times are, I mean, we're doing evening shoots, right?
yeah,
So call times are usually about
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Yeah. And then you're shooting until sunup. So
Wow.
7:30 in the morning. And then, you go eat dinner slash breakfast, however you want to consider it.
Yes.
And then you go to bed.
I hope you're not having to eat with that apparatus on your face.
No, 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 no. You get all that. The team is, it takes an hour and a half or so to put it on, and it takes the team 20 or 30 minutes to get it off of you.
I
And
see.
then you're out of there, and then you just go home and like wash your face off and everything. And but yeah, I mean, you get in the habit. One of the benefits of that shoot is that night shoots can be tough because if it's one night shoot here, one or even two
Mhm.
nights of a night shoot, it's real hard to suddenly adjust to, oh, I'm not going to bed tonight.
Yeah,
That's always really hard. It makes you super tired. But if you have enough time to adjust, so like I would prefer a week of night shoots to one day
I gotcha.
because it gives you time to adjust to it. And Halloween Kills was a month of night shoots.
Oh my gosh. I mentioned you had a lot of screen time in this movie. There's also a scene that takes place at a bar,
Hmm.
again on Halloween night, and where Anthony Michael Hall is present with you. I think that's a great scene. Just
Shout out to
very,
AMH.
yeah, AMH, and just great characters. Now, was that an actual physical location? Because it looks like it. Where was that?
It's a bar in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Love it.
Yeah. Real bar. And that was the week. So that week in the bar, so that week was a shifting week because we actually started those shoots during the day early in the week. And those were just like straight day shoots. We're just getting all the interiors. So we're just inside the bar inside the bar looks like nighttime
Sure.
because you can't see outside or whatever.
Sure.
So we just shot. But then as we moved further into the week, the calls got later because we were doing more and more of the outdoor stuff.
I
By
see.
the end of that week, we are doing the exterior nighttime shots of the bar. And so all of that stuff was late in the week. And basically, what they did smartly was they just kept every day pushing our call back further. So, one day our call would be like 8 a.m. The next day it was like 1, then it was like 4.
I
And then
see.
the last 2 days it was like 6 or 7
Right.
because then we could shoot into the night.
Well, that's good that the filmmakers can accommodate for that and make it easier on the actors, it seems, so they aren't so exhausted and having to deal with, competing windows of time,
Yeah.
etc.
After that, after the exterior evening shots of the bar, everything after that I shot anyway, all night shoots because the rest of the movie, the whole movie takes place at night.
Yeah.
So everything else is night shoots.
Yeah. Halloween night. What David Gordon Green did is after you're dispatched, he does a callback to Halloween 3, which has nothing to do with the this series of films, but you and Nancy and Carmela are all wearing masks that evoke kind of those deadly masks from Season of the Witch, which I thought was a very neat callback.
I think the movies do. His trilogy does a really good job of evoking all three of those first original Halloween movies because I
Yeah.
think even structurally, Halloween 2018 is Halloween 1978. And then Halloween Kills has a lot more of the feel of Halloween 2.
It
Halloween
does.
Ends has a lot of the feel of Halloween 3.
Interesting. And I never watched it with that perspective, so I might give it another gander because I think it got somewhat maligned actually by fans, but I need to give
So
it
did
a
Halloween 3.
yeah, yeah.
It's the one that's trying to not be about Michael Myers. Like it has a
You're
lot in
right. I
common
never thought of it
with
this is
Halloween
an
3.
epiphany for me. I
Yeah.
never thought about it through this lens. Well,
Yeah,
that's
their trilogy kind of mimics the structure of the original trilogy.
this is great. You've opened my eyes. Again, no pun intended.
Look, and I don't. None of that was expressly said to me, but I kind of
Yeah.
put it together afterwards, and especially when I saw Ends, because I was like, "Aren't they?" And I think I had seen after that movie, somebody pointed out that like all the logos are written in the same fonts as those three movies.
That is huge.
I
And then
think.
again, that just like on a simple first watch, it's just on these ensuing watches, etc., that we pick up on details which may or may not have been intentional by the filmmakers, but I know it was a labor of love for everybody involved,
Mhm.
including the director, David Gordon Green. So I want to thank you for your participation in it, and thank you for sharing all the kind of behind the scenes
Sure. Yeah.
secrets about it. You mentioned Danny McBride. He also worked on The Righteous Gemstones on HBO. Was it through your participation in the Halloween movies that you got involved with that project?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, It's so funny because I was on set for Halloween Kills, and the first season of Gemstones had started airing. And
Okay.
I want to say maybe I didn't. I had auditioned for Vice Principals,
Okay.
um, and missed being a part of that. Got to be a part of Halloween, and I don't think at the time I had auditioned for Gemstones. I maybe had one. I maybe
Okay.
had at the time, but I don't think I had auditioned for that yet. But I remember being on set and it had started airing, and so
I
people were
see.
like talking about it. And Carmela had been in an episode; she had
Nice.
she had done it, and I remember being like, "Oh, nobody's called me yet." Um, and then I legit just got called. My agent they reached out to my agent. My agent reached out to me and was like, "Hey, they'd like you to come and do something on Righteous Gemstones." And I was like, "Yes, of course I'll
Of
come."
course,
Like,
yes.
I mean, I love everybody over at Rough House. I think the stuff that they're doing is so cool. It's such a great crew. It's such a great team over there. I just really love working with everybody over there. So if they ever want me to do anything, I'm open. I'm game.
Well, they're based where you're at because
Hmm.
that's why I think the Halloween films and of course Righteous Gemstones are produced there. So that's great. Well, I hope you continue to get to do work with them, and I want to thank you again. No spoilers, but if you want to see Michael get dispatched again on a night shoot around a car.
Another night shoot. Yep, it was another night shoot. It was another couple of nights. I think it was, yeah, I want to say that was again, like that was, yeah, that was several nights again because I remember, well, the Wilmington night shoots were, it was a lot, but I was fine with it because I was in Wilmington. It was the only thing I was doing, right? So
Okay.
I can just, I don't have anybody, you know, my wife and daughter are back at home. I'm in a hotel. I'm just
Yeah.
focusing on making the movie.
Right.
I don't need to accomplish anything during the day. I can stay fully connected to I'm just doing my night shoots. And then when I did the night shoots for Gemstones that week, it shot here in Charleston and I'm home.
Nice.
And so I'm
Nice.
like I'm doing night shoots and then like leaving set at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. and like, oh, well, I guess I'll take my daughter to school.
Wow. Yeah.
And she was in pre-K at the time, and I guess, or she was in, yeah, I think she was in kindergarten at the time. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, I'm also like, working for a local paper. So I'm like, okay, oh, well, I guess I'm gonna keep doing that work. And so the freedom of, oh, I'll just wrap and go to bed that I
Mm.
had in Wilmington, I didn't really have when we were filming here.
Oh
So
no.
I ended up working more during the day when I should have been sleeping. So it was more exhausting to do them at home than it was to do night shoots while I'm like out of town filming.
Interesting. I totally get it.
I was like, no, I'm trying to do real life. I can't do real life and night shoots, guys. I can't do it.
Real life does seem to get in the way.
Can't do real life and night shoots. My daughter does not understand the concept of daddy's been on set all night. He needs to sleep for 3 hours.
I
Doesn't get it. She's just like
get
she's just excited to see me, and I'm so sorry. Stop waking me up.
it. So I wanted, and I didn't actually talk about this yet with you, but in my research about your work, the Pure Theater Ensemble recently did a regional premiere of a work called "The Shark is Broken,"
Hmm.
which absolutely fascinates me. And based on my investigating online, I came to learn that you perhaps have quite the affinity for maybe not only this production, as you worked alongside it, yet you have an appreciation of the film Jaws itself, which is
I do.
essentially what this show is about. So I'll probably murder explaining it. So if you could get into some detail about not only Pure Theater Ensemble's production of The Shark is Broken, but also maybe your feelings about Jaws itself and what it means to you.
So, The Shark is Broken is a play written by Ian Shaw, um, who's Robert Shaw's son, and uh, it follows it follows the making of Jaws. It,
Uh-huh.
it is Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, and Roy Scheider on set between takes of Jaws.
Huge.
And that's the play, right? It's just sort
Yeah.
of watching, how these three interacted with each other, and um, it is an interesting play. I hadn't read it before we did it at Pure. I wasn't in the production. I basically served as like I hosted the talkback basically, and answered some questions about it. I think it's an interesting play. I think if you are someone who is familiar with Jaws, but maybe isn't familiar with the making of Jaws, then it's a fascinating play. And I think the biggest issue I maybe have with it as a play is that everything that you're talking about in it is stuff that I already know because everyone knows this stuff about Jaws.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, what I glean from it is that Ian Shaw is Robert Shaw, you said Robert Shaw's son,
Hmm.
correct? And
Hmm.
didn't he come across a diary or a journal that his father had wrote
Yes.
regarding the production?
Yeah. and he's written this piece that is examining, who were these men making this movie and what was their interaction, and a lot of that is stuff that, like, if you're a film buff who, like, dives into these things and listens to podcasts about these movies and knows all the stories about the actors, then, like, Robert Shaw did not like Richard Dreyfuss. I
Mhm.
know that. So watching a whole play that is just like, hey, these two people don't like each other. It's like, yeah, I know.
Mhm.
What else is this about? Or, like, Jaws is an infinitely difficult shoot, and the shark didn't work and it kept falling under the water, and then the actors all thought they were making a terrible movie, and Steven was really, really young, so he didn't quite have their respect. But I've talked to people who were like, I didn't know all that stuff about Jaws. I thought it was fascinating. I was like, yeah, you're the audience for the play.
It kind of actually, similarly, it's exposing audiences to something that they perhaps didn't know, much like we talked about with Septima earlier, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is a great thing that your theater does, is bringing topics to the masses that we wouldn't have otherwise considered or ever explored. In, let's see, a minute or less, say you were delivering a TED talk about Jaws. What would you want to share with an audience of unsuspecting listeners or viewers about that motion picture?
I mean, the two things that I always talk about whenever I talk about Jaws, or when I teach about it in my classes,
Nice.
are the two things that make it historically significant. It is the reason that we have the current system of summer blockbusters. It is the reason that movies are even released in the summer. It is the reason that people are culturally afraid of sharks.
Huge. That's three valid points right there that you could go on at length about. So, is Jaws a big part of your curriculum when you teach there? Is it a class or several classes or
When as I mentioned earlier, I taught at a private school, and I one of the
right?
classes that I taught was film history
I
to
see.
eighth graders, and
Okay.
Jaws was a central part of that class.
Nice.
It is also a classic, a movie that just comes up if I'm talking about structure or suspense. And I think as a debut film from one of the directors who is arguably the definition of movie magic in a way.
Mhm.
What an incredible movie that still holds up, that still is very effective, that still, shocks audiences to this day. It's one of those movies that I think is kind of flawless, and it ultimately becomes perfectly crystallized, and that, like, it is not, there is nothing about that movie from a technical standpoint, an acting standpoint, a storytelling standpoint that doesn't hold up now and will not hold up in another 100 years. As far as, like, it being centerpiece of our storytelling, like, most people go to the movies less than 5 times a year and they go see blockbusters,
Sure.
and the system of and they go during the summer. They go to see the big summer movies that are released between May and August. And those are the 5 movies they see in a year, if they see any movies in the movie theater. And that system started with Jaws. The idea of an opening weekend started with Jaws, because before Jaws being pushed in a wide opening weekend, movies were released in limited and expanding release in the way that, like, Oscar contenders are done now.
This is
All movies were released that way. The idea of, like, oh, so right now, if you wanted to see, say, Nickel Boys, or one of the 6 movies that were nominated for an Oscar that you haven't heard of and no one has seen, those movies typically hit a major city and they spread out the following week and out the following week and out the following week. They don't have, and then eventually they might go wide. That is how all movies were released until Jaws.
this is
Jaws
amazing.
is the first time that a studio went, no, we're going to release everything on, we're going to release it everywhere at the same time and encourage everyone to go see it opening weekend. And that is now how movies are made and released, is opening weekends and everything going wide. And that didn't exist before Jaws.
I want to take your class, Professor Smallwood. Well, thank you. Well, and speaking of movies, I do want to end on something quickly that you just recently wrapped on something. You've written and directed several shorts, and I do want to talk to you about the project tonight and maybe tomorrow, if you can speak to it without giving too much away. And
I can talk about it a little bit. So tonight, maybe tomorrow, it's my debut feature film.
feature,
Uh,
great, nice. Uh-huh.
it is a piece that I've been working on for quite a few years now as a screenplay that I wrote quite a few years ago. And I we wrapped photography in August. We are just about done with this final cut of the movie, and so it will be debuting at festivals later this year. I think I'm very very proud of it. I'm very very excited for people to see it. It is as far as story, it is a um, movie about a party that is happening for people as they wait for the world to end in the morning. And two people at the party have decided to use that opportunity to have their first and only date.
I love it, and it just gave me a bit of chills just knowing the premise of it. And forgive me, I thought it was a short, and to hear that it's a feature, it's wonderful. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, it was we had an incredible cast, incredible crew,
Uh,
and we're able to film it, despite having made to shut down production for 2 days because of a tropical storm. Uh,
oh no.
it's fine. We got it through. We got through it. We got everything. And it's been this incredible journey, and we've been incredibly lucky and gotten to work with some really wonderful people who have offered their time and energy to it. As soon as I can, as soon as I know, as soon as I have a time and place that people can watch the movie, it will be the only thing I talk about.
Well, and speaking of, I think this gives us a great segue to, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your time and do share with my viewers how they can follow you, what platforms, so that when you are announcing your feature film and where it will be appearing, where should they follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram. That's probably the one I'm the most active on. I'm on Instagram at Michael Smallwood forever.
Okay, beautiful. And that's how I got my information about you. And you were so kind to respond to my DM and connect with me after your tour of Septima. And I will leave you with this. Comment below if you want Funko Pop of Marcus from Halloween Kills.
I want them. I want one so bad. If we get, I'm gonna say this on your show. If
Okay.
they make, I'm putting this out there, and I hope they hear this. If Funko releases a Marcus from Halloween Kills Funko Pop, I will sign every single person who buys one. Like
I think that's huge.
you buy it, you find me, I will sign it for you. Don't send them to my house because I will never send them back to you. But like if if they make these Funko Pops, I'll sign them.
I think they should have a pre-death Marcus and a post.
Do it. Just do it. I'm putting this out in the universe. Please make Marcus Funko Pops.
Well, thank you, Michael. This has been a joy, and I've enjoyed chatting with you. And I wish you success with tonight and maybe tomorrow. Keep a surprise on Instagram there when it will tour at the various festivals, etc. And also keep us apprised of what happens with Septima as well.
I'll
Thank you
be
for
doing that as well, yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you everybody for viewing. Again, this is Netflix and Phil. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And thank you to my guest, Michael Smallwood. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.